Well, hey there, guys. Greetings and salutations, and welcome back to the channel for this installment of Open Mic, the show where the mic is open, the floor is yours. What do you guys want to talk about? That is what we are here to discuss today. I'm, of course, John Campea. Good to have you guys here on this Sunday, and wow, what a panel, what a presentation that Disney put on the other night. It was absolutely baller. We're going to talk about it just a little bit. Obviously, we're going to talk about it a whole hell of a lot more on Monday, tomorrow, on the John Campea Show. By the way, going to give you guys a heads up. You're going to have to put up with my voice. I still got a bit of a cough. It's a little challenging for me to talk. So I'm going to have to be, using my halls as I'm going through and sipping hot chocolate. So my apologies for that. But, it is what it is. All right. Just to let you guys know, if you have a thought, comment, or question that you'd like me to address on Open Mic, go ahead and use the Super Chat feature. You have to be watching live to do it, but go ahead and use Super Chat feature, and as long as I deem it appropriate to be addressed on the show, we'll address it here on the show. All right. I want to talk about this before we get into your questions. I am for good reason, I'm extremely critical of Disney live events, particularly their live big fan events, Star Wars Celebrations and D23. They are poster children, in my opinion, for poorly run, poorly administrated, poorly organized events that lead to frustration, gridlock, people missing out on stuff. They are just they're awful, guys. They're awful at it. I'll never go to another event like that again. But that's different from their pure presentations. Disney puts on a hell of a presentation. They always have. Even at their badly run events, when it comes to presentation time and to put things on a stage and on a screen, that's when they really shine. That's when they are exceptional. Always have been. And the presentation at the Honda Center was remarkable. And it highlights something that for those of you who've been watching me for any period of time, it highlights something that I have been saying for many years. Here's an example. This is Hall H at Comic-Con. All right? That's a big room, right? Certainly bigger than my backyard. Certainly bigger than your backyard. It's a big room. Can hold up to close to 6,000 people at Hall H. Now, the problem with that, of course, is, and I've talked about this many times, is that Hall H houses the biggest marquee events of Comic-Con, right? We're going to have your big Harry Potter panels, or your big DC panels, or your big Star Wars panels, or your big Marvel panels, right? The problem, of course, is that an estimated 120,000 people go to Comic-Con, and this room can only hold 5%. At Comic-Con, only 5% of the people who go are going to be able to get into the hall, a big major Hall H panel that they want to see. 5%. So again, it's a big room. It's a bigger room? This is a bigger room. This right here is a bigger room. The Honda Center. Disney made the right decision to, instead of holding their big event, because they have in years past at D23 done their big event in the big Hall H type room at the Anaheim Convention Center. But they decided this time, or they decided recently, that they were going to go into the Honda Center, the hockey arena where the Anaheim Ducks play. Look at that. That place can hold up to, I think, 25,000 people. 25,000 people. which means over 4 times the number of people who want to go to this big main event can go to it than those who can go to the ones at Comic-Con. At Comic-Con, again, big room, Hall H. I've been in there. I've moderated panels in Hall H before. Big, impressive room. Very nice. This is next level. And I bring this up to emphasize something. Now, as an event, as an overall event, Comic-Con is a much more well-run week. It is a much more, infinitely more finely tuned, well-oiled machine that runs and runs beautifully. The odd hiccup here and there, yes. But overall, the event as a whole, Comic-Con is a much better run event than D23. But the presentations, the big main event, D23 just embarrassed Comic-Con. Just embarrassed them. Because the energy, I don't know how much of it if you've watched online, guys, but the energy in that room, now the energy in Hall H is great. Make no mistake about it. The energy in Hall H is wonderful. It really is. It's great. But the energy in the Honda Center with 4 times the amount of people in there, it felt like a rock concert. It felt like an event. And I have been saying for years, that Comic-Con needs to move their big main event presentations out of the convention center. Because you know what's right across the street? Like literally, you got the convention center, a street, and then right across the street from the convention center. You know what they got? They got Petco Park. They've got a 45,000 seat stadium literally right across the street from the convention center. Right across the street. And you know what? Not too far. They've got Snapdragon Stadium that holds 35,000 people. Yeah, sure, people would have to, it's a little far from the convention center, but who cares? If you know Saturday night we got to go to the Snapdragon Stadium or whatever, we're going to call a cab, get an Uber, take the trolley, whatever, and we'll go out there and we go do it. Point is that Disney, while they don't put on a very good event overall, they put on great presentations. And the presentations, rightly or wrongly, fairly or unfairly, the presentations are what people are going to walk away with. That's the big impression that people are going to walk away with, is the big presentation. And as long as they continue to hold Hall H inside the convention center, it's always going to be this compared to this. Because after this happened, and 2 weeks later, this happened, let me ask you guys, seriously, which one do you want to attend next? Now, I'm not talking about the overall event. I'm not talking Comic-Con or D23. I'll take Comic-Con every day of the week. I'm talking about the big presentation. Are you more excited about going to this presentation, or are you more excited and would you put down your money to go to this presentation? I'll tell you right now, my money's on this one. I'd rather go to this event. This is the one I'd rather go to. And you know what? All the stuff inside is just logistics, right? Big screen is a big screen. You can put up a big screen. You can make your presentation in the computer. That's easy. A good lighting company. My friend owns a big major Nashville music scene lighting company, and he puts up big lighting shows for concerts. They could have a big light show up in a couple of hours and be ready to go. That's not the important part. The important part is most people who wanted to sit in on that big Disney entertainment presentation got to do it because they held it in a place this size instead of in a place this size, which made for happier people. More people who paid to go to this event this weekend got to go to the big presentation. It made for a bigger rock show kind of energy that just fueled the entire place. It was just so well done. So again, let me reemphasize. Comic-Con is a much better run event overall. From Wednesday night to the end of Sunday afternoon, it is a infinitely more better run, more finely oiled machine than D20 Clunky 3 is. But when it comes to the presentations, Disney got it right, folks. Disney got it right. Give the flowers where the flowers are due. I mean, D23 is still a stinking piece of garbage convention, in my opinion. Still a howling giant bag of dog shit. But the presentation, chef's kiss, man. They knocked it out of the park. Give credit where credit is due. They killed it. And in killing it with this presentation, they absolutely embarrassed Comic-Con. And I think right now, Comic-Con has got to be having meetings. They've got to be having meetings about how they can improve their Hall H experience. Now, I'm seeing somebody in the live chat, Pola Burr, is saying, I like a smaller intimate venue. That's great, but you don't get to get into it, do you? Like, here's the thing. When people save their money all year and plan flights and book hotels and spend years of savings to go to this thing, you don't want to hope you get to go to the stuff you want to see. That maybe I'll be one of the lucky 5%. You want a smaller, more intimate venue? Go to the Hannah Montana 15-year retrospective panel that they're going to do in a smaller room. People wanted to be at the big Disney Entertainment presentation. And it's all well and good to say that you prefer a smaller, intimate thing. That's great. But you tell that to all the people who never got to get in. Because instead of in this room, they held it in this room, and 95% of the people who attended Comic-Con were not able to be in this room. So, I mean, I'm just saying, Disney, they killed their presentation, man. That Friday night presentation was a killer. We'll talk more about it on the John Campea Show tomorrow. Anyway, guys, with that down, let's get on to the reason we're here, shall we? And start taking your live comments and questions. All right, let's get things started here. And who are we starting with? We are starting with, I think, Damaris Love. Yes, we are. Damaris Love writes, wait a minute, did I lose Damaris? There he is. Here we go. Damaris Love writes, will Bob Iger give the go-ahead for more R-rated MCU movies, at least one-shots like Punisher in the vein of Goodfellas or any dark Marvel characters? I doubt it. Now, I don't doubt that they will look more closely at when a property might benefit significantly from having an R rating. For example, they were never going to let Blade be rated R, but now they are. So maybe they could look, they won't do the Punisher because the Punisher's on TV, right? The Punisher's in the Daredevil universe. I don't think they're going to jump Punisher over into his own feature-length film. At least I don't think they're going to do that. But then it brings up, things like maybe Ghost Rider, if they ever decide to do Ghost Rider. So, and they're definitely going to do Daredevil. I mean, if you saw the footage for Daredevil. By the way, other neat thing about D23, while they did not release, say, the Daredevil trailer or the Red Hulk footage, they let people in Honda Center record with their phones. I mean, I might have been misinformed, which is possible, but I was told that they never told people they can't use their phones to record stuff. So they put out the good shit, like the high quality shit. But then if you wanted to take out your phone and record the whatever stuff and put it online, go ahead. And they kind of did that, which I thought was really interesting. Anyway, so the Daredevil thing looks like it's going to be borderline, if not right into rated R stuff. So more stuff, yes. One-shot stuff just to do R-rated stuff just for the sake of doing R-rated stuff? I don't think so. That doesn't sound like something Bob Iger would do. All right. Let's see. Next up, Tristan writes, RDJ will be making his return as Iron Man in both New Avengers rides coming to Disneyland. Yeah, I don't really care. I'll be honest with you. I don't care too much about the theme parks. But I heard something like that came out of there yesterday, which could maybe, slight possibility, mean that they are indeed planning to use him as Tony Stark again. Maybe yes, maybe no, but we'll find out. All right. Thanks, Tristan. Sam Fisher writes, IIRC. By the way, guys, I can't remember what that means. What is IIRC? Please don't write in acronyms. Kiyu Kwan playing a snake makes him the first reptile in Zootopia. Yes, it does. All the animals in the first Zootopia are exclusively mammals. Yeah, I think they said that specifically in the Disney 23 panel. I think they did at any rate. And people saying IIRC means if I recall. Thank you guys for sharing that. The snake looks like the snake from Jungle Book. Do you remember the snake in the original animated The Jungle Book? He kind of, you know what? He looks like the snake in Robin Hood, the animated Robin Hood. Do you guys remember that? Do you guys remember the snake in the animated Robin Hood? He kind of looks like that. The Kiyu Kwan snake looks kind of like the animated Robin Hood one too. Anyway, there's that. All right, thanks, Sam. Orange Hand writes, my mom questions whether sports-based around subjective evaluation from judges, for example, figure skating, should even be in the Olympics. What do you think? I've always said that. I struggle with that. I don't know that subjective-based judging events should be a part of the Olympics. Like, if you're the fastest runner, you ran across the finish line first. If you're the highest jumper, you cleared the highest jump. You know, that sort of thing. I've always struggled a bit with the Olympics as far as having subject. Although, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, it's not a coincidence that the home country of B-Boy Pisces, that's me, by the way, the Canadian dancer, won the gold medal in the first time ever Olympic breakdancing. Of course, a Canadian breakdancer won the inaugural gold medal at the Olympics, because that's where I am the founder. No, I'm not really. Of Canadian B-boys everywhere. But yes, but I mean, but then what do you do with some of my favorite events like gymnastics? That's subjective judging, right? So I struggle with it. I do. I struggle with it. So I just don't know. I don't know what you do, because it would mean getting rid of some of my favorite events. And I don't know if I don't want them to do that. Anyway. All right. Next up, Sam Fisher writes, did you see they changed the name from Fantastic Four to Fantastic Four? It's subtle. I think the movie was TM'd. I don't know what that means. As Fantastic Four, not Fantastic Four. I don't know what TM'd means. Guys, please don't write in acronyms. I didn't notice that they changed the name. I didn't notice that it was ever FOUR, or they might be using the number 4 and FOUR, interchangeably. I don't know. I certainly don't think it means, anything significant, but it could just be, are people saying TM means trademarked? There you go. It could, I really don't think it means anything, to be honest. And I think you'll still see it written as Fantastic FOUR and as Fantastic number 4. So I don't really know if it has much impact, to be honest. All right. Thanks, Sam. Next up, Dwayne writes, did you manage to catch the leaked Daredevil trailer? I did, from D23. It's so good. Maybe the best from D23. If not, it's probably around on YouTube or X. Yep, it's out there because they kind of let people put it out. It's great. It's great. It's very visceral. It's violent. Kingpin and Daredevil sitting in a diner talking to each other was pretty cool. They're going to have an excellent villain this season. I think his name is Muse. It looks fantastic. That said, and we'll talk about this more tomorrow, guys, I really think my favorite trailer out of D23 was Skeleton Crew. I really do. You know, we talked about it before when they put out the images that it felt very, very much like Emblem Entertainment. And then actually on stage at D23, they mentioned it's meant to be in the vein of the old Emblem Entertainment things like Goonies. And that's exactly what that trailer felt like to me. It felt to me like Goonies in a Star Wars universe. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I thought it felt beautiful and great. But yeah, man, the Daredevil trailer was fantastic. We're going to talk more about it on the show tomorrow. All right, thanks for that, Dwayne. Next up, Joe Adonis T writes, "Hey, John, I was there, and all I can say is the production value was near perfect. The crowd reaction was ecstatic. Minor gripe, though, the seats for the floor tier were uncomfortable. I've heard that from a few people. Overall, great experience." Yeah, I've heard from a few people that the floor seats that they put out, because, of course, the arena is normally set up for hockey, right? But then they just have removable chairs that they bring in and put on the floor. That you guys can see here. Like, they put those chairs on the floor. I have heard they're pretty cheap fold-out seats and that they were pretty uncomfortable. But that's fixable. And it's really just a couple of hours, and you can stand if you need to, whatever. So I'm not terribly worried about that, but you're not the first person I've heard from, Joe Adonis, that there, I've heard some complaints that those floor seats were a little bit uncomfortable. All right, next up, Downwell sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Downwell, for supporting us on that level, man. Appreciate that, dude. Writes, "I know you're not supposed..." All right, let me try this. "I know you're not supposed. I don't. I respect theaters. I know you're not supposed. I don't. I respect theaters, but I would love to see my recorded reaction to some movies in theaters, Endgame, Final Battle, No Way Home, or Force Awakens, etc. Hope to one day have a home theater in my home." Dude, you were just so super generous supporting, and I'm not quite sure what it is you're asking. Let me try one more time. "I know you're not supposed. I don't. I respect theaters, but I would love to see my recorded reaction." Okay, so you're saying you wish you could have had a camera in your face while you were, say, watching Endgame and Portals to see your actual visceral reaction. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. I would have loved to have seen my face during, the final battle of Gondor in Return of the King, or the portal scene in Endgame, or, stuff like that. That would have been fantastic. That would have been absolutely fantastic. And yes, no, you cannot pull out your phone and record at bad form, all that kind of stuff. But just because you can't do it, you shouldn't do it. I understand why you shouldn't do it. Like, I know you shouldn't rob the bank, but I sure love to have $10 million in my bank account, right? Like, I get it. You're not supposed to do it. You shouldn't do it. 100% you shouldn't do it. But it would be kind of cool to have your own reactions to those types of events. That would be pretty cool, especially in a full crowd with a lot of other people oohing and awing at the same time, right? Like, totally agree with you on that. All right, next up. And thank you again, Down, for supporting us on that level, man. That's really generous of you. All right, Downwell is back and writes again, "We'll never understand, how did Black Panther get a Best Picture nomination, but Logan didn't? Really love Black Panther, but I don't see Best Picture. Logan is top 35 films of 2010s, in my opinion." Well, I mean, that's the thing, Down. I absolutely believed Logan should have been nominated for Best Picture. Now, it was the first comic book movie ever to be nominated for Best Screenplay. That's huge. Don't underestimate how big of a deal that is. It was the first time ever that a comic book movie got nominated for Best Picture or Best Screenplay. I would have personally nominated it for Best Picture myself, but that's a subjective thing, right? And by the way, I have no problems that Black Panther got nominated for Best Picture. Black Panther is an awesome movie. It's awesome. Just flat out. Every time I watch that movie, I'm more and more impressed with it. Not so much Black Panther 2, but the first Black Panther is fabulous. I have no problems that movie got nominated for Best Picture. But, you know, it all happens in stages and in steps. Logan became the first one ever to get a nomination for Best Screenplay. Black Panther became the first one ever to get nominated for Best Picture. And while you and I may feel Logan was better, other people will feel Black Panther is better. It's just a subjective opinion thing. There's no right or wrong. But I myself would have nominated Logan for Best Picture. That would have been me. All right. Let's see here. Dwayne writes, besides the horrible one last year, were the previous D23s you went to before that bad and mismanaged? Yes. As well. Or were some similar to this year? Wanted to know if it's been more bad than good. It's definitely, and it's not just been D23. It's also been Star Wars Celebration. Now listen, I had a blast at Star Wars Celebrations, but that's normally because of the big events. The actual, like when you go to Comic-Con and you understand the 5 million moving pieces that are required to be in perfect synchronization to keep that show running and running well, it's easy to take it for granted. But then when you go from a Comic-Con to one of the Disney events, whether it's D23 or a Star Wars Celebration, it's night and day difference. Disney, in my opinion, does not know what the fuck they're doing when it comes to putting on those events. Now, again, the presentations are different. Once you hurdle everybody into a big room and put Disney on stage, that's where they shine. The presentations are great, but it is such an inferior run product compared to something like Comic-Con. Now, granted, Comic-Con has had 40 years or something to get it right. But still, it is a much better run event than the Disney stuff is. That's why I don't go to any of the Disney live stuff anymore. All right. Next up. Thanks, Dwayne. Tom Weinberg writes, surprisingly, no Wonder Man. I was hyped for that. Yeah, there were a few. Listen, there was a bunch of stuff that they didn't mention. Right? They didn't mention Wonder Man. No Shang-Chi. No Blade mentions, not even the slightest update. No Doctor Strange 3, which we know they're making Doctor Strange 3. No Thor 5 mentions, which we know they're doing Thor 5. And a number of Disney Plus projects that they didn't mention either. So yeah, there was, but I mean, like, what are you going to do though? The panel ended up being 2.5 hours long. Like, it was supposed to be 2 hours long, which was already long. And it ended up being like 2.5 hours long. So I get it that they couldn't talk about everything. I get that. But yeah, I'll be honest. I was surprised there was no mention of Wonder Man, especially considering they're done filming. So I kind of would have thought we would have heard more about it. Anyway, next up, we got Johnny Weiner, who writes, so I remember you said that in your Wakanda Forever spoiler review, you liked the Riri character and that you were interested in the show Ironheart. You're not anymore. No, actually, the movie made me less excited. Like Riri Williams, i.e. Ironheart, she is an interesting character. She's an interesting character. And I certainly liked in Wakanda Forever when we first meet her and they're getting to know her. I like the character. But Black Panther 2 did such a poor job with introducing us to, you know, the dimension of Ironheart that I actually lost enthusiasm for it. I was less excited to see Ironheart after watching Black Panther. You know, after watching Civil War, everybody was more excited to see Black Panther. But I think after Black Panther 2, I think myself, and not everybody, but I think a lot of people were less excited about Ironheart. I have no interest in the show, to be honest with you. I am far more interested in Agatha. I am far more interested in a Ms. Marvel season 2. I am far more interested in Wonder Man. I am far more interested in a lot of other stuff they have coming, but I just, and listen, a really great trailer can change my mind, but right now I just don't have a lot of interest in Ironheart, to be honest with you. All right. Thanks, Johnny. Next up, Billy B writes, anyone else find Kathleen Kennedy's absence strange? She wasn't there night 1, and then the night 2 panel had Dave Filoni come out with all the other studio heads to make announcements. Yeah. There's really no excuse for that. There's really no excuse for that. Like if Kathleen Kennedy was, say, sick, I'm sure somebody would have said, oh, Kathy would have loved to have been here tonight, but she came down with something. She's not able to be here. Like, you could have easily done that. But for the head of Star Wars not to come out was very, very hard to ignore. We'll talk more about it on the John Campea Show tomorrow, but I mean, let the speculation begin. I think it could mean that her time's up. I really think it might mean her time is up. I don't know that, but I think her time might be up. But again, that's just pure wild speculation. We'll talk about it more on the show tomorrow. All right. Thanks for that, Billy B. Next up, Dallas Designer writes, excited about Avatar Fire and Ash. Fingers crossed for Avatar Blood and Honey. Okay, that's funny. By the way, love that title. I don't know how many of you guys watched our live stream of us covering the D23 panel, but I love that title. Now, a title doesn't mean anything. A title for a movie will not make a movie any better, and a title for a movie will not make a movie any worse. It's just a piece of marketing, but still, it's nice to like it, because I'll tell you what, I love Avatar 2. I really enjoyed Avatar 2, but I hated the title, The Way of Water. It just sounds so lame. I'm sorry, it does. It sounds lame to me. But the movie was great, so it didn't matter. Fire and Ash. I love that title. I gotta tell you, I love it. Again, it won't make the movie any better, but I do personally really love the title. All right. Dallas Designer also writes, for Star Wars, do you think Favreau and Filoni could be co-studio heads similar to Gunn and Safran? No, I don't. Literally, here's the thing about Dave Filoni, and I love Dave Filoni. I've had an opportunity to meet and talk to him several times. I think he's great. He's got a weird obsession with his Ahsoka character, but that aside, he's fabulous. But Dave Filoni doesn't know the first thing about what it is to run a studio. You would be hard pressed to find a more less qualified guy than Dave Filoni to do that. They just recently gave him a job as creative officer, right? Which is perfect for him. That's perfect for him. But anyway, the first strike against Filoni is that he has absolutely zero. You have as much understanding about running a big studio as Dave Filoni does. Dave Filoni has zero idea about how to run a studio. Because he's a creative. That's fine. He's a creative. The second thing is, Dave Filoni doesn't really know about how to make live action stuff. And I think he will be a great director, a great live action director. He's already a great animation director. I think he will be a great live action director eventually. He'll get there because he's got the perfect mindset. He's got the perfect attitude. He's so level-headed, it's crazy. But he's never made shit when it comes to live action. And the few things he's done now, I haven't been tremendously impressed. Like Ahsoka was bad, guys. Ahsoka was bad. Now I think he'll get there. I think he'll absolutely get there. But considering he doesn't really have a handle on how to make live action stuff, he knows nothing about running a studio. And here's the thing. His counterpart, Jon Favreau, is also a creative. Like, I could see Jon Favreau, because he has more kind of oversight kind of experience than, say, Dave Filoni does. I could see Jon Favreau, but honestly, Bungo Bilbo is just lying in the live chat saying John likes Gilroy as the head. No, I don't. Gilroy is great running creative productions, but I don't think Tony Gilroy should be the head of Lucasfilm. I don't think Tony Gilroy should be the head of Lucasfilm either. So yeah, just stop lying. So anyway, my honest to God real life pick would be somebody we've never heard of because they don't do stuff that puts you in the public eye. I want somebody who is an expert at running an organization. I want somebody who is an expert at running a large-scale company. That's what I want. I want some guy or woman that we've never heard of before because their expertise is not the stuff that you put the camera on. Their expertise is running business. It's running organizations. It's knowing how to delegate. It's knowing how to pick the right people in the right creative roles. It's knowing all that kind of stuff. I'll be honest with you, I don't want a filmmaker to be the head of Lucasfilm. I want somebody who's good at running a company to be the head of Lucasfilm. Is that crazy? Is that really so crazy? That I want somebody who's, I don't know, specifically specializes in being great at running companies to run the company. Weird, right? Kind of crazy. So, I mean, Jon Favreau's been, I'm open to the idea of a Jon Favreau because he's been doing more and more things as an executive producer level on larger scale things and shepherding larger projects. So I'd kind of be open to that sort of thing. But yeah, I just think, I just really think they should just get somebody who is a person whose expertise lies in running a large organization. Because that's what Lucasfilm is. It's a large organization. I don't need a director. I don't need a filmmaker. I don't need a storyteller. What I need is somebody who knows how to properly run an organization and run it effectively and efficiently. That's what we need. That's what we need. Like with James Gunn and the Peter Safran thing, they paired him with somebody who is they paired James Gunn with Peter Safran, who running large-scale productions, that's his thing. Running large-scale organizations, that's Peter Safran's thing. So they decided to do this thing where they paired him with a guy like James Gunn, who has had great success in both Marvel and DC, knows more about DC properties than anybody else in the business, and they decided to make a partnership there. But again, James Gunn has had large-scale success, whereas Dave Filoni has not. Yet. Dave Filoni has not yet. So, yeah, that's how I see it. Now, I'm open to them coming up with some kind of mix and match. I really am. But the Dave Filoni one really scares me because he doesn't know anything about running an organization, and he has not had any real success in himself making live action stuff. So why would I feel comfortable with him overseeing the live action development of Star Wars? I'm not there yet. I can get there. Dave Filoni can take us there, but I'm just not there yet. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. Next up, we've got Downwell who writes in again. Will an animated movie ever win Best Picture? Sure. If Toy Story 3 or Into the Spider-Verse 2018 didn't win, I don't see it ever happening. That's ridiculous. That's like saying if a movie like Shawshank Redemption, which is one of the greatest movies of all time, one of the greatest movies of all time, if a movie like Shawshank Redemption can't win, then I don't ever see any movie about prison ever winning. No, that's ridiculous. Every year, it's extremely tough to win Best Picture. You're up against like 1,000 other films, right? And it's incredibly hard to win. An animated film absolutely can win Best Picture. It's not going to be easy. Every animated film that comes out only has like a 1 in 500 chance of doing it, but it will happen. Just because Toy Story didn't win doesn't mean an animated film can't win any more than Shawshank Redemption not winning means a live action film can't win. You know what I mean? So, yes. And by the way, Toy Story was nominated. Toy Story 3 was nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Up was nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Beauty and the Beast was nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. It hasn't happened often, but it does happen. And at some point, an animated film will win Best Picture. At some point. All right. Next up, we got Casinema, who writes, here's what I don't get about Robert Downey Jr. coming back. If they wanted an evil Tony, why not just use Superior Iron Man or something? Him as Victor Von Doom just seems needlessly complicated and hard to explain. Guys, there's nothing simpler in the world. It's not complicated. It's not difficult to explain. You can explain it to a 4-year-old child in 15 seconds of proper exposition. 15 seconds of proper exposition, you'll have 4-year-old children understanding it. And they didn't just want an evil Tony. That isn't... Like, here's the thing. It is shocking to me seeing how many people are making wild assumptions based on nothing and then getting mad about those assumptions that they create in their heads. Look, the bottom line for me is this. The Russo brothers, McFeely, Feige, they clearly have an idea for a story that they think is going to be a winner. And that story requires Robert Downey Jr. playing Victor Von Doom. Now, what all the details of that are, you don't know, and I don't know either. So there's no point in making up things in our head and then getting angry about the things that we make up in our head. Bottom line is this. Story comes first. And if McFeely, the Russo brothers, and Kevin Feige, the guys who gave us Infinity War and Endgame, and also, by the way, also gave us Civil War and, and Winter Soldier, if they say we've got our story and this is what our story needs, I don't know about you. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think it is a foolish game to doubt those guys. When those guys work together, all we've gotten is pure cinematic magic so far, right? So nobody said we just wanted a movie about an evil Tony. Nobody said that. So why get worked up about that? They have a story. Whatever that story is, it clearly requires Robert Downey Jr. playing Victor Von Doom. The specifics of why their story requires that, you and I still don't know. But here's the question. Has Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers working together and their history of working together, Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, does that justify us giving them the benefit of the doubt? I'd say the answer to that is fuck yes, it does. It absolutely justifies giving them the benefit of the doubt. And so if they say this is our story and it requires this, then I say, okay, show us what you got. Maybe it'll be the greatest thing ever. Maybe it'll be the worst thing ever. But for now, your track record of Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame, that gets the benefit of the doubt. That has earned the benefit of the doubt. And then we'll see. You know, maybe it will work, maybe it won't, but we'll see how it turns out. But I will say this, Casinema, because Casinema's a long time. I know Casinema's not one of these rage writers, right? I know Casinema's not. I'm just going to say this, Casinema. I've said this before. I will say it again, and I will say it for the next couple of years. There are a lot of people out there right now running their mouths on their little soapboxes about how stupid of an idea this is, how this is desperate. No, it's not desperate. You have a really weird definition of what desperate is if you think this move is desperate. Bringing Thanos back would have been desperate. But here's the thing. There's a lot of people out there right now chirping about how stupid of an idea this is. I guarantee you, mark my words. When Doomsday comes out, you're going to see a lot of these people rewriting history. You're going to see a lot of these people try to scurry and rewrite history. Oh, no, I never doubted McFeely and the Russo bro. Oh, no, I always knew that this was a good idea. Oh, I always knew. There's going to be so many people rewriting history when Doomsday comes out. Mark my words. And we know this because these are the same people who, when Heath Ledger was cast as Joker, never said, Brokeback Mountain boy. Well, this is stupid. I want Joker, not gay cowboy boy. But then after The Dark Knight came out, oh, I always knew Heath Ledger was a great idea. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I always knew it was a great idea. When Ben Affleck got cast as Batman, and everybody laughed. Everybody laughed. And then all of a sudden, after we saw Ben Affleck as Batman, even people who didn't like those movies were going, you know what? Ben Affleck was a pretty good Batman. Everybody started rewriting history. Oh, no, I always knew that Ben was going to be a good Batman. Sure. When Twilight Boy, Robert Pattinson, got cast to play Batman, everybody, Twilight Boy, ha ha, and everybody laughed. Everybody laughed. And then the Batman came out. And then all of a sudden, everybody said, "Oh no, clear." Everybody knew Robert Pattinson was going to be a great Batman. Look at all the indie films he's done the last 10 years, and all the directors who want to work with him. Oh yeah, I always knew Robert Pattinson was going to be a great Batman. Rewriting history. And I'm just telling you, when Doomsday comes out, you mark my words. A lot of these people who are talking about how stupid of an idea this is. And you know what? Here's the thing. I actually love it when something that I think is going to be bad turns out to be great. And I own it. How often do I talk about, pick something, Harley Quinn. I thought Harley Quinn was the stupidest, dumb idea. I thought that show was going to be stupid. I saw the trailer. I thought it looked stupid. And I own it. Because now I think it's one of the best animated things I've ever seen. I actually love it when something that I think was a stupid idea turns out to be great. I get really excited about that. But there are a lot of people out there who are going to rewrite history. They're going to rewrite history. You mark my words. Anyway. All right. Next up. CPU 939 writes, sends in like a $25 super chat. Thank you, CPU. Appreciate that, man. And CPU writes, hey, John, I got in trouble laying here in my hospital bed watching you live. What Okay. Got in trouble laying here in the hospital bed watching you live. What other than 13 as best part for you? All right, I'm going to go out on a limb here that it's probably hard trying to type in a hospital bed CPU. So I'm going to guess you're asking me what I thought the best part of D23 was. That's my guess. Okay. I mean, the best thing out of D23 for me was the announcement of The Incredibles 3. For those of you who watched our live stream, you saw I lost my mind. Like, I straight up lost my mind when they announced D23. The thing that surprised me the most, well, obviously, Incredibles 3 was a huge surprise. But the thing quality-wise that surprised me the most, and I think this is going to surprise most of you that I'm going to say this. I don't care what the narrative is. I don't care what anybody else is saying. That Snow White preview looked pretty good. I don't care what everybody's bringing their own political agendas to it. Oh, the girl who's playing it, she's terrible. Whatever. I didn't know what to expect from the Snow White thing. I got to tell you, if you're going to try to be as objective as you can, that Snow White thing was pretty damn good. It really did look like the fairy tale being brought to life. Now, Amir W saying, I hate the CGI dwarves, but you know what? I was expecting to hate the CGI dwarves, but the way they did it, it really felt like the animated, you know what it reminds me of? You know how we got our first CGI look at Stitch? Stitch looks just like the animated version, but if you were to bring him via CGI into a live action environment. I was expecting that I would hate the look of the dwarves, but I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you I kind of found it a little magical. It really felt like the animated dwarves in the animated Snow White were brought into, via CGI, a live action environment. Listen, I'm not saying Snow White's going to be great, and I'm not saying the Snow White teaser was the best thing at D23. It wasn't. But I was very surprised how much I liked it. I was very surprised by it because there was a number of things I was not expecting to like. I think Gal Gadot, who I do not think is a very good actress, I'm on record saying that. I like her as a personality very much, but I think she kind of slayed in that tray a little bit as the evil queen. I think she kind of slayed in that. And Rachel Ziegler, I mean, she's just, my God, that girl is beauty personified. I mean, if you were going to have a hard time, if you got to make a Snow White movie and you're going to cast Gal Gadot as the evil queen, you're going to have a hard time finding somebody that maybe some magic mirror would say that person's more fair than you. They went out and got a young lady who is like just absolutely stunningly beautiful. So you got this wicked witch being played by Gal, who you totally believe is the fairest in the land. And they went and got Rachel Ziegler, who really, the main reason they got Rachel is for her singing, right? She's one of the best singers in Hollywood. So all that's there, but I got to tell you, man, that Snow White trailer really, really impressed me. It did a lot. Anyway, CPU, quick recovery, my friend. Get better, my man. And thank you for sending that in. All right, Fangblaze writes, I really hope I'm wrong but when Simu Liu said we'll be seeing Shang-Chi again soon, he might have been talking about the dumb Marvel Zombie show. I don't think he was. Now, I have no insider information to back up anything. This is pure speculation. But I think we are going to see Shang-Chi sooner than we think. As a matter of fact, I'll go one better. I think there is a chance we see Shang-Chi in Captain America 4. Not as a major role, but in the CinemaCon footage they showed us of Captain America 4, they showed us the President, Harrison Ford, talking to Sam about wanting to put the Avengers back together again. And I wonder if there's going to be a scene in Captain America 4 where he's going around talking to some of the heroes, and I think one of those will be Shang-Chi. Now, again, I have not heard that from anybody. That is a pure guess on my part, okay? Just to be clear. But I think, yeah. I think that'll happen. By the way, Mad Sinister is saying, if I sent in a Streamlabs a tip link, if I send a Streamlabs tip link on Friday evening, do you think he'll read today chat? No. Tip links are for the John Campea Show. All right. We read the things when you use the Streamlabs tip link. Those are for questions to be read on the John Campea Show, not on Open Mic. Open Mics, we just use super chats. So if you sent in a tip link question on Friday night, then it's a 99% chance that it'll be read on the John Campea Show tomorrow. It's always on the next John Campea Show, just so you know there. All right. Let's see. Next up, we've got JW writes, most excited for Toy Story 5 and Avatar Fire and Ash. Listen, Toy Story movies just rule. They just do. Even Toy Story 4, which was a step down from Toy Story 3. I think we all agree with that. At least most of us do. I still thought Toy Story 4 was fabulous. Not as good as Toy Story 3, but I thought Toy Story 4 was really, really wonderful. And I am very, very looking. But the things I'm looking forward to the most, Incredibles 3, Avatar Fire and Ash. And I don't care what anybody says. Everybody gets surprised when I say, I love everything I've seen from Agatha. I am 100% all on board with Agatha all along. I think this show's going to be great. I think people are sleeping on it. I have a feeling this show's going to be great. I mean, maybe it will, maybe it won't, but I'm thinking that show's going to be awesome. All right. Last question before we take a little break here. Fangblaze71 says, with a box office just under 400 million and a budget of about 160 million, was Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes a success? I'll say Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes was a push. Because if they spent, say, 50 million on marketing, which is, they had a fairly low marketing budget for a movie of that size. I mean, 50 million is not small, but still. So around 50 million, that means it's around 200 million, right? Let's say 210, 220. For argument's sake, let's say 220. Well, you're now looking at a movie that needs to make about $330 million to break even. Maybe 350, 360. So if Planet of the Apes came in close to $400 million with a $160 million production budget and about a $50 million marketing budget, then it more than broke even. Now, I don't know that you can call it a success, making 10 to 20 million in profit. But I'd say it's at least, it wasn't a failure. We'll say it was a push. We'll call it a push. All right, guys. With that down, we're going to get on and read the rest of the questions that you guys have sent in. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank a couple of sponsors of today's episode, our friends at Miracle Made and Gametime. Guys, we want to take a second and thank a sponsor of today's video, Gametime. My wife Ann and I love going to events, whether they're comedy shows, concerts, an LA Lakers game. I mean, just the other night we went to go see Ronnie Chang and it was awesome. We love having these new experiences and new memories. And our sponsor Gametime makes getting tickets for concerts and events faster and easier, even if you don't buy tickets right away. Because prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer you get to the show start time. With killer last minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying event tickets. I couldn't believe how easy and most importantly, intuitively, the entire app works. Finding the event I was looking for couldn't have been easier. The way it lays out the map of the venue, letting you know exactly where the seats are that you're looking for, and how easy the process was to choose and buy those tickets. So don't worry if you think you're too late to get tickets to that big event you and your friend want to go to. They have last minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever. So guys, take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code CAMPEA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CAMPEA, C-A-M-P-E-A, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, Miracle Made. Guys, it's hot outside and your nighttime bedroom temperature has a huge impact on your sleep quality. So if you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Miracle Made sheets are inspired by NASA and use silver-infused fabrics that are temperature regulating so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. There are just so many things that make these sheets so fantastic. We already mentioned the self-cooling properties for better quality sleep, but they're also self-cleaning. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. No more gross odors. So go to trymiracle.com/Campea. That's TRYMIRACLE.com/Campea to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code Campea at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. So upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/Campea and use the code Campea to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/Campea to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. And thank you to our friends at Gametime and Miracle Made for sponsoring today's episode of Open Mic. All right, guys. With that all down, let's now get over and finish off all the questions you guys have sent in here. I'm just trying to find out where we left off. I think we left off somewhere around... I think Fangblaze was loud. So we'll go on to the next one from Fangblaze, who writes... I've seen about 30 new movies in 2024. Nice. And Abigail is still in my top 5. I really loved it. Curious if you saw it and what did you think about it? I thought Abigail was absolutely delightful. It was so, like, again, it's not a top 5, top 10 film of the year for me, but it is a great example of a modestly budgeted, single location, little horror film that just had a really nice creative premise, and it was better than I thought it would be. So, yes, 100%, I absolutely really did enjoy Abigail. I thought Kevin Durand was so good in it. She's Valdez. I thought her name was Abigail. He's so good in this movie. And of course, he plays Proximus in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes as well. But Kevin Durand was great. The whole cast was great in it. I really enjoyed it. If you guys have not seen Abigail, you're sleeping on it. It's actually on Peacock now. So if you haven't seen Abigail and you got some free time coming up, I highly recommend get a drink, get some snacks, settle into your sofa, and watch Abigail on Peacock. I think you're going to like it. It's a fun little movie. All right. Next up, Kane writes, thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine hitting $1 billion today. We're going to go more into that on the John Campea Show tomorrow. Other than to say, here's the crazy part. I said forever that Deadpool and Wolverine was going to be $1 billion film. I thought everybody would agree with that. I really did. I thought that was just the most common no-duh thing. I was always surprised, like going back like a year ago, 6 months ago, when so many people thought it didn't have a chance of getting to $1 billion. And we'll go into it more on the John Campea Show tomorrow, but a huge, huge milestone. The first $1 billion film for Marvel in a beat, and big win for everybody all the way around. Love it. All right. Next up. K Major writes, hey, John, the Olympics are done, and I got to say, dude, you could probably make a run at bronze in 4 years after what I saw from breakdancing. Yeah, no, I couldn't. Listen, I used to be a professional breakdancer in another lifetime, but breakdancing today is so much more advanced. Like, I was watching the breakdancing competition, and again, the Canadian wins gold medal. Of course it does. Of course a Canadian won. Anyway. It is just another level than what it used to be back in the day when I used to dance. It is a totally different game. These guys have just gotten so much better. And what they're able to do with their bodies is insane. Insane and remarkable, and hats off. I still don't think it should be an Olympic event, but hats off to them for just how good those guys are. All right. And no, I never in my wildest dreams would even qualify for that. Even in my best day, I wouldn't even come close to qualifying. All right. Cowboy Kush writes, John, the title of your video says it all. That event was so damn good that it felt like any moment Beyonce or Taylor Swift could have come out and performed. Also, your stream that night was A1. Oh, thank you so much. We had a really good time live streaming that. I couldn't believe how many people were there watching it. Like, we had like, at one point, we had like 13,000 people in our live chat during that. It was crazy. It was great. But yeah, listen, and again, Disney can put that presentation on at Comic-Con. But having it in the Honda Center, having it where you're in a place where you've got not 6,000 people, you got like 26,000 people or 24,000 people, whatever, in that rock concert kind of an atmosphere and event, and you couple that with the type of presentation that Disney could put on, it was a big winner, man. It was a huge, huge winner. And thank you for joining us that night, man. I really appreciate that. And thank you for the kind words, Cowboy. I appreciate that a lot. All right. Astros writes, how come Feige hasn't updated / shown the MCU roadmap? Why should he? I mean, really, why should he at this point? I think there are still some things in flux. Like, I think the changing and moving away from Kang has probably done a number of things to their overall MCU plans that are going to require some tinkering and whatever. So that whole roadmap thing, here's the question. I like seeing those roadmap graphics too, but really, here's the question. What purpose does it serve? I mean, really, what purpose does it serve? I mean, we get excited for a minute about it, but that's about it. So I think they haven't updated the roadmap because there are still some things in flux. There are probably still some projects they're trying to hammer down details about when they're going to put them out and how they're going to get produced and all that kind of stuff. So really, at the end of the day, I think he hasn't updated it because he doesn't need to update it. We know what the next movie coming out is. It's Captain America 4. We know what the next Disney Plus show is. It's Agatha, right? So, and we know Fantastic Four is coming. And we know we know all this stuff. So they'll update the roadmap when they're good and ready. But the reality is there's no need for it. Like we as fans don't need it. They as a studio don't need to put it out. At some point we'll get one. But I would rather them wait to make sure that everything they're going to put on that roadmap is in stone. And if they're not ready to do that yet, then just don't do it. Just don't do it. Like, for instance, right now, they don't even know when Blade is coming out. They have no idea when Blade is coming out. So what's the point of putting out a roadmap that you're going to have to change in 6 months once you know where and when Blade is going to drop, right? So I think that's part of the reason. I think that's part of it. But hey, listen, I'm like you, Astros. I get a big kick out of those roadmap graphics. I really do. But at the end of the day, they don't really serve any function. All right. DG Productions writes, a Villain's Land is coming to the Magic Kingdom Park in Florida. That is a Disney Parks fan's dream. What are some of your favorite Disney villains? I love Ratigan from The Great Mouse Detective, Bring on the Filthy. Some of my favorite, one of the most horrifying ones. And I'm forgetting the name of the character. Guys in the live chat, help me out. The villain in Hunchback of Notre Dame. The one who sings a song about burning the girl. What was that guy's name again? Like that's the thing, that Frollo. Arkham 13 was the first one to say Frollo. That Hunchback movie is not good for kids. Like, there are scenes in that movie. First of all, there are themes that are way beyond kids. But I would argue there are scenes that are like completely inappropriate for kids. That's tough. So anyway, Frollo, Scar has to be right up there. Yeah, Scar has to be right up there. those are the ones that come. I mean, I'm sure if I had some time to sit down and come up with a list, I'd come up with a better list. But those are the ones that came off. Those are the ones that come off the top of my head. All right, thanks for that, DG. Next up, Esteban Reyes writes, the hierarchy of power. The hierarchy of powers. Disney is about it to change after Monster Jam. Yeah, listen. That is the one. You remember that game on Sesame Street? One of these things is not like the other. One of these things is not the same. I can't even remember if that's the tune. But you remember that game on Sesame Street? Monster Jam is the one thing that just didn't quite fit. You know what I'm saying? It's the one thing in that presentation that just didn't feel like it, like even that Hoppers about the girl who can put her mind into a beaver, like even that fit in with the stuff they were talking about. Elio fit in with the stuff they were talking about. Win or Lose fit in with the stuff they were talking about. Monster Jam, a movie about that just kind of felt awkward. Now, maybe it'll be great. Sir Malsum is saying Monster Jam Tokyo Drift. Maybe it'll be great. Maybe it'll be awesome. But it kind of feels like Dwayne Johnson's going backwards because it feels like him doing that. What was the one where he was like a nanny and then he was a football player who was a dad and the Tooth Fairy? Like Monster Jam feels like, and a Race to Witch Mountain. This feels like him moving backwards in his career. But I don't know anything about the movie. Maybe the movie is going to be unbelievably fantastic, but it felt like a very odd one, Esteban. It felt like a very, very odd one to me. All right. Redeemer writes, what do you think of the $9.1 billion loss that Warner Brothers had? Not surprising. I mean, a lot of it was about market adjustment and stuff like that. Remember, that is a company and corporation wide thing. And a lot of it had to do with market adjustment. So it's not Warner Brothers Pictures had a $9 billion loss. It's not that Max had a $9 billion loss or anything like that. It was a big overall corporate thing. And that happened. I mean, that happened. Netflix lost like $20 billion in market cap in one day once. So it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it's definitely not a good thing. Definitely not a good thing. But, you know, it's not unexpected. And that's part of the reason why they're doing a lot of streamlining with their company right now. It's part of the reason why they're cutting certain things, streamlining their business, because they need to get those losses off the books. And that's one of the things they're doing. Because listen, the current Warner Brothers ownership is still dealing with the massive mess that the AT&T ownership of Warner Brothers caused. That's the thing that a lot of people forget. That a lot of the terrible spots that Warner Brothers finds themselves in, and one of the big reasons, if not the big reason, that Warner Brothers over the past year or two have made some very unpopular decisions is because of the unbelievable mess that the AT&T ownership caused at Warner Brothers. Problems that were going to be felt for years to come. So, yeah, it is what it is. It's the same thing like when Bob Chapek first took over as CEO for Disney. And the first year was plagued with problems. We constantly told people, listen, guys, this first year is not his fault. A global pandemic came along. They're going to have to deal with the repercussions of that, all other kind of stuff. But the reality is, and we said this, when Warner Brothers Discovery took over Warner Brothers from AT&T, they inherited a giant mess. Go back and read up on the history of AT&T owning Warner Brothers. Go back and look up how much AT&T bought Warner Brothers for, and then how much AT&T had to sell Warner Brothers for. They took an unbelievable loss because AT&T completely sabotaged that company. Not intentionally. They were trying to do some cool things, but everything didn't work. And as a result, Discovery came in, took it over, and immediately knew we were going to have a lot of work to do. And this was not unexpected, and it's just part of the process that they got to go through. And ultimately, whether or not they can save the company, we're going to find out in a few years. But I mean, who knows? But they're doing the things they need to do right now to try to turn things around. All right. Next up, CPU writes, as Kathleen Kennedy wasn't on stage, do you think Disney will replace her? And who would you like to take that role? I've already kind of addressed this. I mean, listen, I heard a year and a half ago that Kathleen Kennedy, that the decision had been made. She was fired, but she was going to stay on, and that they would announce that she was leaving sometime between the opening of Indiana Jones and the end of 2023. Well, guess what? The end of 2023 came and went, and she's still there. Which is totally contradictory to what I was told and then what I told you guys. So I thought, from the information I got, I thought she was going to be gone by the end of 2023. Yet here we are. She's still there. But her not being on stage at D23, that is a big red flag. So, I mean, I've thought for a long time that she is not long for this world when it comes to being the head of Lucasfilm. So I do still think she'll be gone sooner rather than later. And again, who would I like to see run it? Somebody that nobody's ever heard of. Everybody gets obsessed with, like, you know what normally doesn't work out in sports? 99% of the time doesn't work out in sports when a great athlete then becomes a coach. 90% of the time it doesn't work out. But that's what everybody thinks. Like, who should run Lucasfilm? Everybody thinks of all these directors that they want to have run Lucasfilm. It shouldn't be a director. It should be somebody who specializes in running large-scale organizations. Somebody with advanced business degrees. Somebody with advanced management degrees. I want somebody that you've never heard of and I've never heard of, because their time has not been in Hollywood in front of the spotlight. Their time has been running successful, large-scale organizations. Let the creative people do creating, but have somebody as the boss who's good at being a boss. And that's who I would like to have see. But we'll see. We'll see. All right. Next up, NK writes, do you think we'll see the Beyonder in Secret War? That's a good question. That's a very good question. You know what? I'm going to guess no. I think one of the things Kevin Feige has... Listen, there's been so much stuff that has been horrible about this multiverse saga they've been doing. I mean, one of the most true lines, one of the most true scenes, even though it was a joke, it was still a very deep truism. In Deadpool and Wolverine, when Deadpool, Wolverine, and Nicepool are talking to the Deadpool Corps, and Deadpool's like, this whole multiverse thing has just been one giant L. It's been horrible. And Nicepool's in the background just doing... Like, the whole multiverse thing has been a complete and utter mess. And one of the things... one of the things that I think has really been a mistake that Kevin Feige now understands has been a mistake was getting too far inside baseball with the deep cut, only the nerdy comic book people would understand or appreciate this or that. Because in the first three phases of the MCU is easily accessible by everybody. It was easily accessible by everybody. And I think getting into stuff like the Beyonders and all that kind of thing, I think that would be a little bit too inside baseball and quite frankly, not necessary. Again, am I saying they won't use Beyonder? No, they could. They could. Do I think they will? As a guess, I don't think they will, because I think Kevin Feige is starting to understand they've gone too far that way and that they need to start reeling it in a little bit. So that would at least be my guess. But again, NK, it could very well happen. I'm just guessing. I'm just guessing like any other fan is guessing. But I really do think they're going to wrap up the whole multiverse nonsense with Secret Wars. I think Secret Wars will close. If you know about the story, I think this will be the thing that closes off the multiverse stuff. All right. Big Mouth Stan writes, 2 upcoming films I hope deliver from their original source material are Dune Messiah. Ooh, I don't think Dune Messiah is very good. And Secret Wars. Both stories won't translate well in theaters, especially the original 1984 Secret Wars comic. Well, I don't think they're doing the 1984 Secret Wars. That's the thing. I don't think they're going to do the 1984 version. I think they're clearly doing like the God Emperor Doom one with the Maker and all that kind of stuff. I'm very nervous about Dune Messiah. I've said this before, I will say it again, Big Mouth. I really hope Denis Villeneuve is very, very liberal with taking creative liberties with the source material. He did take a lot of creative liberties with Dune 1 and 2. I hope he takes even more, because I just don't know that the Dune Messiah story in the book will translate well into a movie the way it is. I really hope he does a lot of adaptation, because quite frankly, this isn't a popular thing to say, but after the original Dune book, in my opinion, the Dune books go downhill and they just get wackier and wackier and crazier and crazier. And I'm a little bit nervous about Dune Messiah. I am, but I trust Denis Villeneuve. Let's see what he comes up with. All right. Thanks, Big Mouth. NK writes, have you checked out Cape Crusader? I enjoyed it. No, I have not had a chance to check out Cape Crusader yet. It's funny because I ran into a buddy of mine last night, Eduardo, and the first thing he asked me was, have you watched Cape Crusader yet? It's really, really good. So I'm hearing good things about it, but I have not had a chance to sit down and watch it yet. You know what? I might actually do that later today. House of the Dragon's done. So maybe later tonight, where I'm usually would be watching House of the Dragon, I'll sit down and watch it because I'm hearing pretty good things about it. All right. Next up, we got Fangblaze, who writes, I didn't like the first Avatar, but I love The Way of Water. Very excited for the future movies. I've heard most of Avatar 4 is already filmed. Yeah. From what I understand, James Cameron was basically filming. And by the way, I can't confirm that this is true. This is just stuff I've heard that could be right, could be wrong. From what I've heard, James Cameron filmed 3 and 4 concurrently. Like they basically filmed them all at the same time. So hopefully that's true, but we still have a long wait for the third one. But I'm telling you what, man, I'm very excited for Avatar 3. Killer title, Fire and Ash. I'm very excited for it. I can't wait to see it. All right. Johnny Weiner writes, fans are still mad about Snow White actress drama. They can go suck lemons. Who the fuck cares about the crying babies? She's a fabulous talent. People just bring their own political ideologies into things. And if there's an actor or actress who doesn't line up with their political ideologies, then they get all pissy. Listen, there are a lot, and I've never understood that baby behavior. There are plenty of actors out there who I think have some real bonkers ideas about some stuff. But if they're good actors, that's all I care about. Right? If I think they're a good actor, I don't care about what their personal ideology is about whatever in politics. If they're a good actor and they're good at their job, that's all I care about when it comes to watching the movies. Now, it's a little bit different when you get somebody who likes beats women, then I get a little pissy about that. But somebody like just about political, and the crybabies who whine about that shit are just not even worth paying attention to be honest with you. All right. Sean Ryan writes, when will we get an Orville season 4 announcement? Listen, we just did a story on the John Campea Show this week where one of the cast members said that they're going to start filming in early 2025. They might be right. They might be wrong. I hope they're right. I mean, I would like to see an Orville season 4. But if they are going to start shooting in early 2025, which is not something you should take to the bank. But if they are doing that, I would suspect that we would get an announcement about the Orville season 4, so probably sometime around Thanksgiving. At least that would be my guess. But then again, I wouldn't necessarily count on it. Wouldn't count on it. All right, CPU writes, I've lost 21 pounds in the last 8 days. Well, I mean, that's not necessarily surprising if you're in hospital, because if you're in hospital, depending on what you're in hospital for, you could lose a lot of weight. That's not a healthy thing to do. Losing that much weight that fast is not a healthy thing to do. But if you're in the hospital because you're sick, that probably has something to do with that CPU. All right. Isaac Martinez writes, best movie of the year so far. That's easy. Dune. Dune 2 is the best movie of the past 10 years. I'll die on that hill. Dune 2 is the single best movie we've had come out of Hollywood in the last decade. It's an utter, complete masterpiece of a film. I think it's the best film of the last 10 years. Absolutely the best film of the year so far. All right. Where are we at here? Murray Reich writes, I'm looking forward to Alien Romulus, you and me both. But I'm worried because August, like January, has been usually a month of bad movies being released, fingers crossed. You know what? It used to be like that. It used to be, even like 5 years ago, that there were certain months that were kind of dumping grounds and certain months that were traditionally strong. But I've kind of found in the last 5 years or so that, not that there aren't still examples of that, but that it's really not as true as it used to be. And I've talked to somebody who has seen Alien Romulus and they loved it. They absolutely loved it. Now that's just one person, so it doesn't mean anything. I'm sure you can find somebody out there that loved Madam Web. And by the way, there are people out there who loved Madam Web. I am obviously not one of them, but there are people out there who loved Madam Web, and more power to them. But I think we're in for a treat. I really do. I've been excited about this movie ever since they showed us I wasn't excited about it at all until they gave us the presentation for it at CinemaCon back in April in Las Vegas. And the presentation they showed us totally made me do a 180. I have been psyched for this movie. I've got my tickets for Thursday. I cannot wait to see it. And I personally think it's going to be great. I mean, maybe it won't be, but I'm thinking it's going to be great. All right. I hope you have a good time at it, Murray. KT Games, right? You can tell my voice is getting worse, guys. Sorry about that. KT Games writes, are you planning or have you read the Got books? Are you planning or have you read the Got books? I have books. I've got books. Oh, people on the side are saying Game of Thrones. Guys, please be careful how you write. Anyway, no, I have no interest in reading the Game of Thrones books. None. I love the Game of Thrones show. I don't need reading the books to color the way I view the show. So I've heard obviously nothing but great things about the books, but I have zero interest in reading the books. So no, I never have read the books. I've read about the books. Like I've read some synopsises and stuff like that. I've read some outlines, but I have no interest in reading those books at any rate. I'm good with the show. I'm good with the show. All right. Thank you, KT. Next up, Brian Powers writes, More Thanos wouldn't be desperate. Oh, it would be absolutely desperate. Maybe they can bring him into Secret Wars and Moon Knight can explain that somehow Thanos has returned. See, that would be desperate. Because they've done the whole Thanos saga. They did it. They killed him twice. They ran the whole thing. To then go back to Thanos would be a bit desperate. Now, if you know the Secret Wars comic book story, you know that Thanos has a role to play, and it makes sense. But he's not the prime antagonist, right? So if they use Thanos, and that's a big if they use Thanos the way they used him in the comic book story of Secret Wars, it would totally make sense and be logical because he's really just a secondary or even a third level character in that. But if they were to say just, man, we don't know what to do, just make Thanos the big bad guy again, that would be desperate. Doing something utterly as creative as bringing Robert Downey Jr. in to play Victor Von Doom, that's bold. That's not desperate. That's bold. So we'll see how it goes. All right. Thank you, Brian. Next up, Joe Howland writes, hey, John, how you doing today? I'm actually I feel really good, but the cough is a little bit bad. That's the only thing is. Did D23 say anything about Hulu TV? I don't think so. If so, did they say anything about Shogun or the new Alien TV show? Thanks for bringing on the filthy. They certainly didn't at the presentation we watched. So the Disney Entertainment panel at Friday night, like, I don't know if they talked about it at any other time during D23. Now listen, Shogun is still, it's greenlit, but it's still a theory, right? They haven't finished writing scripts, let alone have any kind of a production date or any kind of an air date. So for something like Shogun, they literally would have nothing to talk about and nothing to announce. And as far as where they're at with the Alien TV series too. So to the best of my knowledge, which is limited, to the best of my limited knowledge, I don't think they talked about either of those, but both of those seem kind of early in the game to be talking about anyway. But I'm kind of excited about both of them, especially Shogun. I cannot wait for Shogun Season 2. All right. Starwid writes, hello, big fan here. Thank you so much. I wanted to ask, do you think instead of introducing the Beyonder, they can instead use Loki and Doom, and Doom takes his power? I have two different minds on this. I don't know that Loki is more doing a job than he has power by the end of Loki season 2. But that's a side thing. I have two very distinct minds on this. Some days I wake up thinking that Loki is going to play, and his role as the god of stories is going to very much become an important part of Secret Wars. There is another side of my brain that thinks they're not going to see Loki at all. That we're not going to see Loki at all, and the ending of Loki season 2 is going to have nothing to do with this movie. And I wake up every day thinking a different thing. So do I think Doom takes his power? No. How does Doom get his power? I don't know. Are they going to use the Molecule Man? Are they going to use the Beyonders? I mean, I really don't know. Will it have something more to do with the Celestials? I don't know. There's a lot of questions yet to be answered. And the comic books don't necessarily give us the answers. Again, because Marvel takes a lot of liberties with the comic book stories, usually for the better. So we'll find out, man. We're getting closer. We're getting closer and closer. We'll find out. All right. Casinema writes, I know Deadpool 4 isn't very certain. I don't think there is going to be a Deadpool 4. But if we do get it, with all the meta commentary in these films, I think Mojo would be a great villain pick. I actually don't agree. If you look at the first two Deadpools, they're really kind of more, I think Deadpool works better personally, in kind of a more grounded thing. Like even with Deadpool 3, with, you know, the void and multiverse and all that kind of stuff, they still made it kind of feel kind of grounded. To me, the best Deadpool movie is still the first one, which is very kind of street level grounded Deadpool. I personally think that's the environment he works best in. So my guess would be no, but listen, Cinema, they could come up with a way to make it work. I mean, they found a way to make the void and the multiverse all work with Deadpool, so they could find a way to do it. But I just feel like Deadpool's a character who works better the more grounded of an environment you put him in. But again, that's just me. I could be wrong about that. Thanks, Cinema. Next up, Risky Pins writes, what were your thoughts on the new Fantastic Four suit that Joseph Quinn was wearing? If you look closely, it has these line textures just like in the comics. At first I thought it looked really silly. Just being honest. At first I thought it looked really, really silly. But then I remembered in their universe, because remember, their universe is not our universe. They're in the 1960s era of their world. Not our 1960s, but their 1960s. And there's a lot of design elements of the 1960s there. And so, again, I admit, when I first saw the suit, I thought, that looks really silly. But when I thought about it in terms of the time era context, I thought, you know what? That looks exactly what it kind of would have looked like. So, again, I don't want to get too ahead of myself just from a quick image. But after thinking about it, I think I kind of like it. But we'll see when we get it more in context. All right, guys. And the final question today comes to us from Fangblaze, who writes, after D23, I'm most excited for Moana 2 and Fantastic Four. Listen, I'm a Moana guy. Unapologetically, full out, I am a Moana guy. I love Moana. I think that movie is awesome. And I'm very excited for Moana 2. I'm excited for Fantastic Four. I'm not going to lie and pretend like I'm super excited for it, but I'm looking forward to it, seeing what they're going to do. Yeah, man, I think for me, the things obviously I'm most excited about is Incredibles 3, especially with Brad Bird back doing it again, and probably Avatar Fire and Ash. And I remain very, very excited, but I'm telling you guys, I think y'all are sleeping on Agatha all along. I think Agatha's going to be really good. We'll find out. All right, guys. And that'll do it for today's installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for being here, making this little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. Guys, tomorrow on the John Campea Show, tomorrow morning, we're going to be going a lot more in depth into the D23 stuff. We're going to be talking about all the different things, our favorite things about it, the weakest things about it, a lot of other movie news as well. I hope you guys will come back and join us for that. As always, click the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel. Guys, that'll do it for me for now. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.